All Tomorrows is one of the most unique sci-fi reading experiences that you will ever have. Let's discuss this. All Tomorrows is a book that's written by C.M. Kozeman. It's a science fiction novel that's basically showing the chronicling of the human species and how it evolved over a span of 1 billion years. Within that 1 billion years, it goes over how the humans handled space travel, how their species developed and changed depending on the planets that they were on and the things that occurred. It goes over the wars and other things that they may have been in as well that influenced the evolution of their species throughout that time frame. Because of this, it's one of the most unique reading experiences that you may ever have for sci-fi. Now, just to preface, the reason I wanted to do a book review today on it was because not a lot of booktubers or people in the booktube community talk about this. I do see All Tomorrows talked about in communities such as the creepypasta community, the S&P community, and things of that sort, but it's never really mentioned in booktube, despite it being a sci-fi novel. And it is a short novel as well. It's not like it's hard to get through. It's only about 2 hours long, and it is a very unique experience. I think any fan of the sci-fi genre would actually find it very interesting because it gives you a almost horror-like feeling while reading about the chronicling of the human species. Now, just to give you a summary of what All Tomorrows is about, I'm going to go ahead and talk about its premise. If you don't want any spoilers at all, feel free to click off. I'll include a link to the audiobook I listened to that includes graphics and pictures, and it's only about 2 hours long. It's a very short read, and I implore that you go ahead and read it and come back to this video. I'm not going to be doing a full spoiler breakdown of this. I'm just going to be going over the main premise, and so you're still safe to watch if you want as well. Before we get started, if you could leave a like and subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated, but let's go ahead and get right into the video. Now, the premise of All Tomorrows is basically the human species terraforms Mars, and then when they terraform Mars, that's the first example we get of the evolution of the human species, where, for example, the humans that are resting on Mars start to grow longer limbs because the gravity isn't as heavy as what Earth is. And so because of that, their limbs grow longer since there's less weight pulling them down. That's one example. And then from that point, those people on Mars then start to develop different things about the human species and evolve for its environment. And it eventually expands to have the humans explore the whole Milky Way and the whole galaxy and universe and multiple planets. And it shows how these humans evolve based off them exploring the universe and these planets. Now, that's pretty typical for the most part in terms of sci-fi. Something you would expect that you would get is the exploration of space and these planets. The part that makes a twist on this novel is when they encounter an alien species known as the Q. Q-U. Now, the Q are actually more superior to humans, and they end up going to war with the human species, and unlike many sci-fi novels, the humans lose. Usually we'll see in a lot of cases with sci-fi, this is where the humans win, and they are basically fine, and they show their dominance like we have so far on Earth, being the top predator on our own planet. And that's the main difference as well. A lot of fiction and just our human life in general is from a standpoint of being this top predator on the food chain. We haven't encountered an issue outside of our own species for anything really threatening us with extinction. And so now that we found another alien species that's superior to us, the Q defeat the humans, and honestly, they're quite disgusted with what human nature is. One of the things that they hate about the humans the most is how the humans abuse Earth and the planets that they live on. A lot of the planets that the humans are on are depleted and they have no more resources. And this lack of care for the places that you are living in is partly what the Q hates about the humans. And to show them a lesson after defeating them, the Q then decide to spread the human species across multiple different planets and devolve humans. And they get rid of sentience on a majority of these human species, and all of these species no longer have any free will or thought, and they're just succumbing to the evolution due to the nature and atmosphere of the planets that they're on. Now, that's probably the most interesting part about the book, is how we see these different species evolve, and you see the different changes that goes through them and what happens to them on a physical as well as mental and emotional level. I won't spoil anything. I'll give one example of one of the species, and that is what they call the lopsiders. The lopsiders was a human species that was placed on a planet that had 36, I believe, 36 times the gravity of Earth. And so, due to this, all of the humans that were sent to that planet evolved to basically become flat like a pancake. And they also have deformed bodies, and they look like Picasso sculptures, essentially. I'll place a picture right up here. And so, this is because of the atmosphere of their planet, the gravity that was on that planet, and the things they had to go through. Now, imagine this, but on a scale of about 20 plus planets and different species we see. So you'll see all of these different humans evolve to turn into different things based off the atmosphere they were put in by the Q. And it's not just one evolution, it goes through multiple stages. We have the first 250 million years, and then you have an additional 250 million years, all the way up to a billion, and we see how the humans interact with each other, how some of them regain sentience, how they come into first contact with each other, they evolve, they go through wars, things of that sort, and it's the chronicling of the human species in the universe going forward in the future. Now, since we as humans live in such a small, finite point in life, we don't really get to see that evolution in our eyes and the changes that are made. And so it kind of is mind-boggling, and it's a little creepy to read, to be honest. Even though it is sci-fi, I feel like it does take from horror in the aspect that these things are human, but they don't look human to you. They're not what you perceive as human, because we can only perceive what is human as ourselves. And so it's quite an interesting experience when you're reading through this, because you're going through essentially just at least for me, a somewhat existential crisis in terms of what is really human. Are we the same in terms of our nature, what we truly are? What stays, even if our physical appearances change? What is it that makes us human? And that's the main core of this book, I would say. Now, I know it sounds like a lot coming from a book that can be completed in 2 hours, listening to it on an audiobook. And I'll include that audiobook as well, because it's great. And there's plenty of channels that go into depth on multiple subjects and topics of this. But I just wanted to give a surface level review of it and my thoughts and the experience as a whole, because I think it is truly a unique experience to read. And anyone who loves sci-fi should try to experience this book, not only because it's quite interesting, but also because it is unique and it'll give you a different perspective. Because even in our own sci-fi novels, look at something like Star Wars or Star Trek, it's only a certain aspect we see of humans. We never see the humans truly evolve. They keep the state that they are as humans on Earth, but we never see them turn into anything more than that, even if it's thousands of years in the future. And it's partly because a lot of evolution takes place more than thousands of years. It takes place over millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years. And so being able to encapsulate that is a very interesting thing to see. Now, I hope I convinced you to give it a shot for this book. It's quite interesting and something I'm going to be thinking about for a while. Now, it's not a literary masterpiece. It's not beautifully written. It's written more like a textbook, I would say, than anything else, but it's still quite interesting and pulls you through. There's pictures on every single page for the species and the stages of the evolution of the human species you're looking at. And so it's not only visually appealing, but it is also interesting to read as well with the way it's written. And I think you'll get a kick out of it if you enjoy sci-fi. If you've already read All Tomorrows, though, feel free to leave a comment down below. What is your favorite species that you saw? or formation of a species you saw in All Tomorrows when you were reading it. Which one did you like the most? Other than that, though, thank you all for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. If you could leave a like and subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your time. Bye-bye.